In 2008, I was stationed in District 7, specifically in Sector 1 within the Mano Valley vicinity. I was assigned the midnight shift, which meant I conducted my patrols during the late hours. One particular night remains etched in my memory. It was around 1 o'clock in the morning when dispatch contacted me through the radio. They informed me about a noise complaint at the graveyard and mentioned children playing in the vicinity. I acknowledged the call with a 10-4 and began my journey towards the graveyard. As I drove there, I couldn't help but find it strange that kids were out at such a late hour. Nevertheless, I arrived at the graveyard, scanning my surroundings as I entered. At first, I didn't observe any unusual activity, and the car's windows remained untouched by any mysterious figures. I proceeded deeper into the graveyard, still vigilant. Suddenly, I caught sight of movement near a tombstone. I promptly stopped the car, grabbed my flashlight, and cautiously approached the tombstone. When I reached it, I couldn't believe that the children, if they were the source of the complaint, could have disappeared so quickly. Standing there, I began to hear a faint humming sound behind me. Straining my ears, I realized it was the soft humming of children. My anxiety grew, and I quickly turned around, shining my flashlight, only to find nothing there. Though I'm not easily frightened, the idea of encountering ghostly children gave me chills. At that point, I decided it was time to leave. I made my way back to the patrol car, but just as I was nearing it, the radio suddenly blared to life, playing a song. Confused, I turned off the radio and frantically scanned the area with my flashlight, unsure of what was happening. Attempting to regain my composure, I told myself to stay calm and get back in the car. I fastened my seatbelt and was about to put the car in reverse when, to my astonishment, the radio volume increased on its own, and I watched as the dial turned by itself. Bewildered, I concluded that if it was music they desired, then so be it. I let the song play through, and as soon as it ended, I hurriedly left the area, eager to put the strange encounter behind me. In the summer of 1977, a small rural town in Ohio became the epicenter of a mysterious and chilling event involving local law enforcement, notably Officer John Schaffner and his partner, Officer Dale Spohr. This incident, occurring late at night, has since been etched into the annals of paranormal encounters. The occurrence began around 2 o'clock a.m. on a quiet summer night. Officer Schaffner, while on a routine patrol, received a radio call from a local resident. This individual reported seeing unusual lights and hearing strange noises emanating from a deserted farmhouse on the outskirts of the town. Intrigued and duty-bound, Officers Schaffner and Spohr set out to investigate these claims. Upon nearing the old farmhouse, they were confronted with an extraordinary spectacle. A glowing object, pulsating with various colors, hovered in the sky close by. This object was unlike anything they had ever encountered, bearing no resemblance to any known aircraft or natural celestial phenomenon. Despite feeling apprehensive, the officers ventured closer to the source of the disturbance. As they did, the mysterious object descended, coming to rest in a field near the farmhouse. Approaching cautiously, they were soon faced with an even more bewildering sight. 3 humanoid figures, adorned in metallic suits and helmets, stood beside the glowing object. These figures, emanating an almost ethereal aura, sparked a profound sense of fear in the officers. Feeling out of their depth, they promptly radioed for backup. Shortly after, additional police officers arrived at the scene, collectively witnessing the enigmatic figures and their inexplicable craft. Then, without warning or sound, the figures and their vessel vanished into the night, leaving the officers in a state of disbelief and wonder. In the aftermath, the incident was rigorously investigated by local law enforcement and even caught the attention of the U.S. Air Force. Despite thorough interviews with the officers and a comprehensive examination of the location, no logical explanation emerged. The testimonies of the officers, deemed credible and consistent, only deepened the mystery. To this day, The events of that summer night in Ohio remain an enigma. The officers involved have steadfastly maintained that their encounter was with something beyond the realms of current scientific understanding. This case stands as one of the most perplexing and disconcerting instances of police officers confronting the unknown, casting a lasting shadow over the small town and its residents, and continuing to intrigue both the public and paranormal enthusiasts alike. In the late 1970s, in a small town in South Wales, an extraordinary event occurred that would become one of the most talked about UFO encounters in the United Kingdom. On the night of November 28, 1980, two police officers, Alan Godfrey and his colleague Pat, were on a routine patrol when they encountered something beyond their understanding. The night was unremarkable until the officers received a report from a local factory worker. This individual claimed to have seen a large diamond-shaped UFO hovering over a road just outside the town of Todmorden. Skeptical yet duty-bound, Officers Godfrey and Pat headed to the location to investigate, fully expecting to find a logical explanation. Upon arriving at the scene, they were confronted with a sight that challenged their beliefs. Hovering about 5 feet above the road was a large metallic object. It was an imposing sight, measuring approximately 20 feet in diameter. The UFO was covered in a grid of small, square windows, adding to its otherworldly appearance. The situation took an even more bizarre turn when they realized their police radio had ceased functioning, and their patrol car's engine had mysteriously stalled. This unexpected malfunction heightened the officers' sense of alarm. They watched in awe and apprehension as the UFO silently and effortlessly ascended into the night sky, disappearing from view. Intriguingly, the car's engine and radio resumed normal operation immediately after the object vanished. Shaken by the experience, Officers Godfrey and Pat reported the incident to their superiors. They underwent extensive interviews and examinations to assess their mental and physical states, passing all evaluations. Their encounter was officially documented, adding a layer of legitimacy to their extraordinary claim. What followed for Alan Godfrey, in particular, was as puzzling as the encounter itself. He began to experience strange dreams and periods of missing time. In one vivid dream, he recalled being aboard the UFO, encountering humanoid beings with large, glowing eyes. These experiences continued to disturb him for years, suggesting a deeper impact of the encounter on his psyche. The Todmorden UFO incident, as it came to be known, garnered significant media attention and remains a seminal case in UFO research. The detailed account of the encounter, backed by the credibility of the police officers involved, has made it a subject of continuous discussion and analysis among UFO enthusiasts and researchers. The story of Alan Godfrey and his colleague encountering a UFO during a routine patrol night stands as a striking example of how encounters with the unexplained can occur to anyone, even those in positions of authority. It serves as a reminder of the enduring mystery and intrigue surrounding UFO phenomena. In the small town of Wilder, Kentucky, there exists a country music nightclub with a peculiar and unsettling reputation. Bobby Mackey's Music World, more than just a venue for country music, has become infamous for its supernatural occurrences and eerie atmosphere. This nightclub has been the site of numerous police interventions, each marked by strange and unexplainable events. The most notable of these incidents took place in the 1990s. Officer Greg Turner and his partner, responding to a report of possible break-in at Bobby Mackey's, arrived at the club expecting a routine check for intruders or vandals. However, what they encountered was far from ordinary. Upon entering Bobby Mackey's, both officers were immediately enveloped by an intense feeling of dread and unease. The interior of the club, normally lively and bustling, was eerily quiet, adding to the officers' apprehension. As they moved through the darkened club, they encountered unexplainable phenomena. Disembodied voices echoed through the empty halls, and a sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature left them shivering despite being clad in their warm police uniforms. Their search for intruders took a surreal turn when Officer Turner reported seeing a shadowy figure darting across a room, while his partner heard what seemed to be eerie laughter and whispers. Both officers felt a disturbing sensation of being watched by an unseen presence. This experience was unlike anything they had faced in their careers in law enforcement. Bobby Mackey's music world has a long history of strange occurrences, well beyond this incident. Patrons and employees alike have reported a myriad of paranormal events, including sightings of apparitions, untraceable ghostly footsteps, and other unexplained phenomena. The nightclub's dark past, tainted by tales of murder and rumored satanic rituals, has only fueled its reputation as a hub for supernatural activity. Local law enforcement officers have frequently been summoned to Bobby Mackey's to address these disturbances. While many were initially skeptical of the paranormal claims, several left the club with a changed perspective, finding themselves unexpectedly swayed by their own inexplicable experiences. The ongoing incidents at Bobby Mackey's music world stand as a stark reminder that even those tasked with maintaining order and rationality can find themselves confronted with the mysterious and paranormal. To this day, the nightclub continues to draw the interest of paranormal investigators and those seeking a brush with the unexplainable, making it a renowned location for those fascinated by the supernatural. In the 1980s, a remarkable incident occurred at the Myrtles Plantation in Street Francisville, Louisiana, a place steeped in history and reputed for its paranormal activities. This antebellum mansion, renowned as one of America's most haunted houses, was the setting for a spine-chilling experience involving two local police officers. The story begins one night when the officers received an emergency call from the plantation. The caller reported a break-in. Responding to the call, the officers hurried to the scene, expecting to confront a typical case of trespassing. However, upon their arrival, they found the mansion to be unsettlingly quiet and noticed no evident signs of forced entry, which was unusual for a break-in situation. With heightened caution, the officers entered the mansion. Their flashlights cut through the enveloping darkness, casting light on the mansion's old and opulent interiors. As they moved from room to room, an eerie sensation began to build. They heard inexplicable, disembodied voices and the sound of footsteps in the hallways. These sounds seemed to come from nowhere, adding to the officers' growing unease. The encounter escalated when one officer reported seeing an apparition of a young girl at the top of a staircase. She appeared to be dressed in period-appropriate antebellum clothing, a detail that stood out to the officers. His partner, upon looking towards the staircase, was equally startled to see the ghostly figure. Both officers were struck with an intense fear, finding themselves at a loss to rationalize the surreal vision before them. The apparition, which appeared to be that of a young girl, then began to descend the staircase slowly, her gaze fixed hauntingly on the officers. This sight sent the officers into a state of panic. Unable to process or understand the supernatural occurrence unfolding in front of them, they chose to flee the mansion immediately, abandoning their initial mission to investigate the reported break-in. Shaken, the officers returned to their station. Their account of the encounter was met with skepticism from colleagues and superiors, some of whom speculated it was either a hoax or a figment of their imagination. Nevertheless, both officers remained steadfast in their testimony, insisting on the reality of their experience with a ghostly figure in the Myrtles Plantation. This incident didn't just remain an anecdote within the police department. It attracted the attention of paranormal researchers and enthusiasts. It became a part of the lore surrounding the Myrtles Plantation, which has a long history of reported hauntings and ghostly sightings. The plantation is particularly famous for the legend of Chloe, a former slave who is rumored to have poisoned the plantation owner's family and is said to still roam the property. The encounter of the police officers at the Myrtles Plantation remains one of the most notable and unsettling accounts of law enforcement personnel confronting something beyond the realm of normal explanation. It serves as a striking example that even those who are committed to dealing with everyday realities can find themselves facing mysteries that challenge the boundaries of the explainable, leaving them with profound and lingering questions about the nature of the paranormal. In the early 2000s, Officer Mark Spencer, a seasoned and pragmatic police officer from Savannah, Georgia, encountered an incident that defied his logical understanding. Savannah, a city steeped in history and renowned for its ghostly tales, set the stage for this unsettling experience. One night, while patrolling the historic district, Officer Spencer received a call to investigate a disturbance at an old mansion. This mansion, converted into a museum, was infamous for its tragic past and rumors of hauntings. Responding to the call, which was triggered by the mansion's alarm system, Officer Spencer arrived to find the property eerily quiet with no evident signs of a break-in. Entering the mansion to ensure its security, Officer Spencer navigated the dimly lit corridors, surrounded by antique furnishings and aged portraits. A chill swept over him, accompanied by an inexplicable sense of not being alone. His rational mind tried to dismiss the feeling, attributing it to the mansion's somber atmosphere. In one of the rooms, a startling sight confronted him. The silhouette of a woman dressed in period clothing, standing near a window. Initially mistaking her for an intruder, Officer Spencer called out, advancing towards the figure. To his disbelief, as he drew nearer, the figure simply disappeared into thin air, with no conceivable place to hide. Shaken, Officer Spencer thoroughly inspected the rest of the house, finding no one and nothing amiss. He reported the incident to his superiors, who met his account with skepticism, but acknowledged his reputation for rationality and reliability. Later, Officer Spencer discovered that the mansion was the center of numerous ghost stories, including sightings of a woman in 19th century attire, believed to be a former resident. A skeptic by nature, this experience profoundly challenged Officer Spencer's views on the paranormal. This incident became a notable anecdote among Savannah's law enforcement community and further contributed to the city's haunted lore. For Officer Spencer, a respected and down-to-earth officer, the encounter remained an enigma, a perplexing and disturbing experience that he could never quite rationalize or forget. In September 2014, Officer Romero was on duty monitoring the surveillance cameras at the Espanola police station when he noticed something unusual on one of the screens. The camera, which was pointing toward the station's secured Sally Port area, captured a translucent, ghost-like figure moving across the screen. This figure appeared to walk through the secured gate and then across the screen before disappearing. Initially skeptical, Officer Romero checked the area to ensure there were no breaches in security and to see if there was anyone actually in the Sally Port. However, he found the area empty with no sign of any intruders. The footage was reviewed, and no logical explanation could be found for the figure. It didn't match the typical appearance of a person caught on the camera, and there were no signs of tampering or malfunction with the surveillance system. The incident gained media attention as the footage was shared publicly. The video showed a blurry figure moving across the screen in a fluid motion, which many believed to be a ghost or some form of supernatural entity. Officer Romero and others at the police station reported feeling uneasy and experiencing unexplained events in the station both before and after the incident. This occurrence at the Espanola police station remains a topic of interest and speculation, particularly among those interested in the paranormal. It stands as a rare instance where a law enforcement officer, trained to rely on facts and evidence, faced an occurrence that defied a logical explanation.